the one thing everyone told me was, it's harder to do renovations to gut than it is to build something new because of the domino effect. And from day one, that was so clear to us. From you guys, everyone, like Alejandro specifically, just being like, hey, we're gonna do this. We're gonna find some bodies buried around the apartment.
Welcome to the Cutting Edge Show, a business and construction podcast. I am your host, Carlos Guerrero. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Show Me the Process podcast, where we bring in guests to share their experience with the construction projects. I am your host, Carlos Guerrero, and today we have Paul Florez here, producer of Bumpies and head auctioneer for Hunt, a professional fundraising firm. Paul moved to Miami and wanted to bring the New York style to his Coconut Grove home. Today we're going to talk about his experience in remodeling for the first time and working with Cutting Edge. Welcome, Paul. How are you, sir? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I am such a fan of everything you guys do here.
Well, not only a fan of what we do, but you're also a client, a former client, and a future client too, because you're going to go phase 2 soon.
Yeah, well, no, we just signed the contract.
Oh, nice.
We signed the contract. So you guys are going to be doing some custom bookshelves for us, and we are so excited for it.
Amazing. Who is Paul? Tell us a little bit about Paul. I mean, you're like, your energy is great. You know, we were talking before, you actually lived in Miami. You moved to New York and you came back. Tell us about who Paul is.
Yeah. So I grew up here in Miami in the 305, Wade County, but, I grew up in Pinecrest.
Nice.
And do you know it was Pinecrest before Pinecrest was what it is today?
What was it before?
So what was it before? It was just like farmlands. It was unincorporated Dade, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And
yes.
do you want to know how much my dad paid for his corner lot in Pinecrest back in 1996?
I'm going to say $200,000. I'm in real estate.
Yeah, no, $200,000 for people at home. $200,000 in Pinecrest.
That house is worth today what? 3 million?
3.5. 3.5. They did do renovations. We didn't have you guys back in the day, but they did renovations. And so it's a corner lot there. It's beautiful. So I grew up here in Miami. I went to LaSalle, which is in Coconut Grove. And then when I graduated, I went to Miami-Dade for a year before I ended up going to FSU. And then from there, I took a job at Marvel Comics.
Marvel Comics.
As an editor. So like Captain America, Wolverine, Spider-Man. I was in the custom publishing section there back in like 2006. I just rented when I was in New York. I didn't understand what it meant to be a homeowner until like last year when we bought our loft in the Grove. And it was one of those situations that we bought when the pandemic was sort of at its height, and you would show up to a listing and there was already like, and not only that, people with offers. And it was like double your what you wanted to pay.
In all cash.
Where does the cash come from? Like everyone just had cash on hand for this stuff. And we lucked out. We found this wonderful corner unit in the Grove, a beautiful view of the water. So we lucked out, man.
Yeah. And by the way, the Grove, guys, is like a great neighborhood here in Miami. It's like one of the toppest. You have restaurants, you have great schools, great community, close to everything. So one of the very nice. I love Coconut Grove. I used to live in Coconut Grove too.
Oh, really? Where?
Many years ago. Of Kumquat.
Oh,
Kumquat
yeah. I know it very well. I had a friend who lived in some of they're not duplexes, but maybe townhouses, I think.
Yes.
But he lived in a Kumquat-like community.
So, okay. So then you were from here. You moved to New York. You were renting most of your lives. You guys finally decided to buy your first home.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, buying your first home, there's a whole experience, right? Like, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how the offers work, how, you don't know anything about mortgage, about stuff like that. But luckily, you were able to get your beautiful home in Coconut Grove.
Yeah.
Then now you have your dream, and you're like, okay, well, now this house, this home is not where we want it, because we want to bring the New York look to it.
Yeah.
How did that happen? What was going through your mind back then? How did you start the process? Because now, the people that are watching are maybe homeowners. Maybe they just bought a home. They want to also remodel. They also want to do construction. So they're probably in your shoes. So just walk us through, where were you back then?
Yeah. So we were so excited to finally get an apartment, and it was in Coconut Grove. And we were so excited about it. We were like, we cannot believe we scored this unit in Coconut Grove. And we were like, oh, it's going to be a fixer-upper, right? I became very familiar with the term turnkey, which was something that was never it was never in my vocabulary. I had no idea what turnkey meant. This apartment is anti-turnkey. So I don't know if you guys officially have some kind of term for that, but it was a dump. The previous owner, I'm happy to say this on camera, the previous owner did nothing to this place. Like the sheetrock was from like the 80s at like Miami Vice, which would have been cool if this was 1988.
Of course.
But we're in 2022 when I bought it. So around there, 2022 when I bought it. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is truly a fixer-upper. So we had this huge seismic shift coming from New York, luxury, high-rise, rentals that we were living in to being a homeowner and living in something that needed a lot of care. I'm going to give you the love. I'm going to give you the raw thing here. Literally a breakdown. I was like, what did I do? Why did we buy down here? Our furniture didn't fit anywhere. Like the layout of our apartment was just like all wrong. So it was our dream home. We loved the spot. We loved the vibe of this like open loft, very airy in Coconut Grove, overlooking the Mayfair, the water, everything. Bro, it's beautiful. Anywhere else, if it had not been in that specific building, it would have been millions of dollars and we got it at a fabulous price. But this dream home ended up quickly morphing into a disaster. and we kept thinking like when I first moved in, I was by myself. My husband was still at our New York place and the AC just started dripping and then it got on the sheetrock, right? And then it got on the floor and I'm by myself and I never had an AC.
Yeah.
I only had those little wall units. And if I had an issue, I just called up the concierge and they sent up maintenance. So I'm appallingly inept when it comes to all this stuff. So very quickly, I want to say like maybe like a week into us moving to Miami full time, I was like, what did I do with my life? Like this turned into a complete nightmare. So my headspace wasn't really good when we finally decided we need to do something quick. So I think it was November 2022. I think we were talking with you guys already by December, January.
Okay. So then you're living in this place. When you bought the place, you knew that you were going to do renovations or you just bought the place. Okay. So you bought the place knowing
we knew it wasn't turnkey, anti-turnkey. But let me tell you something. It's a very different perspective when you've never done renovations before. Correct. Because you don't understand. I've done events with the Property Brothers, for example, right? Nice. And I see their show. I see everything. I'm like, oh, everyone looks so happy.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's so happy.
Don't believe all the shows.
It's like, oh, it's just going to be like that. I'm going to walk in the contractor and be like, oh, I'm so unhappy with this kitchen. And then boom, I didn't really understand sort of like the pangs that come with construction. I mean, let's just say, when you start demolition, for example.
Yes.
That was something that I was personally excited for because I was like, oh, they're going to clear the rot. But, yes, they have to clear the rot, but the rot has to go somewhere. And you have to have, we live in a loft, so it has to stay on our balcony. And then when it starts raining, the balcony floods. You know what I mean? Like, man, yeah. It was little things like that we didn't know. And also just sort of, like the process and understanding it. And I want to say you guys were really great about communicating that. But I think going into it, I didn't think of these details. And no matter,
nobody does.
No, yeah.
Like what people want to think about the pretty stuff, how much it's going to cost, how fast, get in, get out, and have your magazine look. That's really what is important. But obviously a lot of people, miss the process that it takes to even just do demolition.
Demolition is my favorite. I want to say this. Demolition is the best thing ever because our apartment, the guy who lived there before did like a makeshift like kitchen thing and he got like limestone? I don't know. But he cut it himself and he like super glued it to like the kitchen and it looks so bad. So we have a video of our contractor, Alejandro, which we were going to talk so much about Alejandro, but with him with like a sledgehammer, I think, and going for you, Paul, because I hit it and we awesome. Banged it. And it was so gratifying to see that because I was in New York at the time. So I wasn't here when demo started. Again, I just didn't know. Yes. How great is it that you broke the limestone? Now the limestone has to be moved to your balcony and you have to start demoing everything.
Hey guys, let's take a break. If you enjoyed this show, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Also, for more information, link below. Let's go. I'm gonna move a little bit back. So you had this idea of renovating, like basically start the process because a lot of people basically they don't know what to do first. Yeah. Like, do I find an architect? Do I go to a contractor? Do I get a designer? Who do I call? How was your research to get? I mean, eventually you hired us, Cutting Edge.
Yeah.
But how was your research to get to us?
So there are a lot of resources online if people aren't fully aware of that. You can just type in like home renovations, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, New York, wherever you're at. And you have, what's the website? House.
Yes,
and it lists everything. So I looked at the ones with the best reviews. You obviously are among them. And I am one of the people who left a good review. But I looked at the top 5. Okay. And so I solicited those top 5s. And I had no clue. I didn't know that you needed to touch base with someone. Maybe you have to have plans for something. Maybe you have to think about like spatial planning. It's not as easy as just coming in and like, whoops, everything gets done really quickly. We had no idea where to start. We did the research and we wanted to have a point person. We wanted a contractor. We were very nervous because here in South Florida, everyone kept telling us, oh, be careful with who you hire because they're going to run away with your money. I was like, no, they're not. They can't have it.
Those guys are nice.
They're nice. I can trust anyone. And so top 5, I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to be shady here, but like top 5, I definitely had questionable conversations with some people.
Okay.
Where they were like, just give us your money and we'll start, the process. No and I was like, wait, do we need to send a contract? What's the schedule like? Can I see your office? Stuff like that. So we went to the website. We started going through several other like firms. And again, you guys were on them and we scheduled meetings.
And then the meetings, so you start interviewing people. And then obviously, so what led you to want to work with Cutting Edge and Alejandro? Like what was the difference?
Again, not naming any names for any other like firms out there, but one person definitely called me up and was like, well, you got to hang tight because you're in Miami now and we just have a long wait period. And so you're going to have to wait till summer 2023 before you can even begin, renovating. And then someone else I was talking to, very lovely person, but walked in, saw the state of our apartment and went, oh, nombre de Dios, like that.
Nombre de Dios.
Yeah. And I want to be clear that like, it wasn't an issue about pricing because I want to say, I think there's this misconception with contractors that people are trying to take your money and stuff like that. And I never got that impression from anyone I spoke to. Everyone sort of quoted me around the same, within the range. But then we met Alejandro. He came in. And, we had a lot of questions and we just really didn't understand what we were getting ourselves into.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you the moment I was sold on Alejandro and so was my husband. Alejandro had a notebook with him and he listened to us and he started writing down everything.
Taking notes and understanding
our needs. What was important for us?
Yeah.
What is important for us? We were just moving down from New York. We had just bought this place. Something that was really big for us was the budget. You hear these horror stories that like, okay, I want to do it for X amount, but then it triple that. And, we wanted to make sure that we were in a position that we had the available funds to do what we wanted to do.
Of course.
Also managing expectations. That's something that Alejandro did very well, which is we were like, oh, we just want to do our kitchen. He's like, well, we tear down this wall.
Domino effect.
Yeah, it's a domino effect. Now, there's a water heater here. Dude, we had a water heater tank that was like this big in the middle of our kitchen. Yeah. And it took up so much space. But yes, we remove it. But now there's a hole on the floor. And, you have a certain tile, so you have to replace the tile. So it was from day one, from that very first meeting where we probably were just asking novice questions.
Yeah.
Alejandro listened to us. He answered those questions, but then was very frank with us about managing expectations and understanding what was a priority for us.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so then I guess the communication and the educational part that he brought to you set him apart, and then you decided to work with Cutting Edge and Alejandro.
Yeah, it was a notebook, and then he actually brought us here to meet the team.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So we came here, and I think it was in this room. It was set up differently. It wasn't a podcast studio, but we sat in this conference room and he walked us through the budget and why things were a certain price range, why we had to do this stuff. So it was, again, education and understanding the process, which was so incredibly pivotal for just like this dumb guy who just doesn't even know what's going on.
Yeah, I wouldn't say dumb. It's like I'm going to be honest with you. Like I've been doing this for 22 years now, maybe. Until today, I learned something new.
Oh, I love that.
Like till today, and not just me, everyone in the team. Alejandro also learned something new. Every day we learn something new because every project is different. They all come with different challenges. They all come with different ideas. They all come with different clients, with different needs, with different expectations. So it's not like a one process fits all kind of thing.
No.
Right? It's not, because we're working with homeowners. There's passion, there's emotions, there's real feelings.
Yeah.
So the job of the project manager, in this case, you were working with Alejandro, is to really understand that so that we could create a custom plan for you and your partner in your project that meets all your needs.
Absolutely.
So that's really where that's why it gets tricky. Right. And that's why we keep learning. But, I'm glad that you mentioned that, like the time that he spent with you and like giving you that, because that's what we train on. Like we're really strong with that.
So important. And by the way, also like, I'm putting this on camera. I Instagram stalked you. I
nice.
saw your content. No. And the one thing that was really clear to me was that you were very passionate about what you do.
Yes.
And, I used to work in book publishing. I was passionate about books, but who isn't? I'm a full-time auctioneer now. I'm passionate about the causes that I do. I didn't think that there were people out there who were very passionate about home renovations, because again, I'm coming at this from when my parents renovated their Pinecrest house. It was just some guy who came in and was like, yeah, this can look really nice, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure my parents had a conversation with them, but I was like 16.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. And this was a whole new world. And so I'm sold. I'm seeing you, this dapper guy online talking about, what it means to have a handyman versus, a contractor, stuff like that. The different skill sets are involved with it. And then I have someone like Alejandro coming in and listening to me and taking down notes. And, the one thing everyone told me was, it's harder to do renovations to gut than it is to build something new because of the domino effect. And from day one, that was so clear to us. From you guys, everyone, like Alejandro specifically, just being like, hey, we're going to do this, but get ready. We're going to find some bodies buried around the apartment. And we found quite a few bodies buried that I don't know if I could say.
You actually can. So now that we're in the topic, what was, now you start construction, you're already in it, you're already working with Alejandro, you guys have a great relationship, you're working with us. Tell us one story, like what was your bottom? Because this goes everybody. Like I don't care who you hire, there's gonna be ups and downs, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because there's just so many people involved that it really takes a big team of people to basically get your project, your construction from point A to point B. Yeah. So what was one of those the juicy stuff for people here?
Okay, we had quite a lot of juicy stuff because our building in the Grove was built in the 80s.
Oh,
and Miami, Miami in the 80s, not necessarily the best, in terms of architecture. So what is a low point? Well, when we started demo, we found a telephone line and I was like, I haven't had a landline since like 2011. Yank that out. Like I was like,
I already know where this is going.
You know where this is going. In fact, I think I was the one who yanked it out. I think I was the one who was like this with it. And apparently, this
for the building.
Yeah, exactly. Bro, you look
I know where you're going already.
So I yanked it and it affected the one neighbor that we may not have the best relationship with or don't really know. They lost their landline and we're coming into our unit and being like, oh, I think because of your construction, you're affecting our telephone. And I was like, that's impossible. That's ridiculous. Yeah. And also, like, welcome to 2023, 2022, whatever year it was. We don't have landlines anymore as a cell phone, but it was an important thing for them. And so we had to figure it out. And sure enough, it wasn't just for my unit. I think we were doing some construction with the washer and dryer, and it was just particularly loud. And we live in post-COVID. Everyone works from home. I had the neighbors come out.
Oh, man.
I had to rush to our local grocery store in the Grove and just get like 8 bottles of wine and give it to everyone and say, I'm sorry, because it was so loud. But it's unavoidable loud. Yeah. It's one of the pangs of construction. So, and also my husband is very meticulous about every single detail. So he wanted to understand, what was happening behind the walls with those pipes because some of those pipes were rotted.
But with good reason, because, you're investing all this money into your new place and then the last thing you want is like a pipe that's left behind and then someday that goes and then there goes your investment.
We were living in the unit. So it's all of this construction, all this debris, all of these pipes are everywhere. Maybe the water's working. Maybe it's not. We have a membership to Anatomy in the Grove. So that's how we took showers. Like daily, I would just jog do my jog and then I would just shower at.
That works.
We would shower at our gym because we had like cold water or there was no water working. And those were low points. I have to come from, and I want to be careful how I say it because it is a very privileged perspective that we are able to do these renovations in a great neighborhood. But to come from New York where we didn't have to worry about anything because we were renting in a high-rise building, to now all of a sudden not have water and having to go like 5 minutes to go take a shower at our gym. It's pretty demoralizing. It creates a lot of friction at home between you and your partner, and you may not care about a certain thing with the construction and the renovations, but they do, and vice versa.
And vice versa. Yeah. No, I totally feel you. Like, renovating while living in a house is tough because there's going to be days no water, no power. In your case, like in a condo, you're always going to have power, but it's not the same. And then you have the dust.
The dust, man.
The dust. You can't.
That gets everywhere.
Everywhere. Through the AC. You can't.
Yeah. So the dust is a low point.
Yeah.
For folks at home. Yeah. It gets so dusty, but then it looks so beautiful afterwards. So
I don't want to get to the end yet, but so far you're like in the middle of construction. You're living through this. What would you change now that you know what you know before? Will you change anything?
Would I change anything?
Maybe move somewhere else before the start of construction? Like anything?
You know what I would have done differently? I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. How about that? I think we were so uptight and not knowing what to expect. And poor Alejandro, man, 7 a.m., ring, a call from us, a text message, something like that. And, we had a lot of fears going into it because, we're not only affecting our unit, but we're affecting the entire building with our construction, right?
Yeah. So you have that also, that stress.
That stress of it.
You have to see the people in the hallway.
Yeah, exactly. Your neighbors, you're like,
here's another bottle.
So here's another bottle. Not only are you hearing noises all throughout the day, but then at nighttime you're hearing us fight. You know what I mean? Like, again, it was just, I was like, I told Alejandro, I was like, we have to double soundproof everything because I'm pretty sure everyone's hearing us scream about things. But no, I think I would have enjoyed it because when I look back at the process retrospectively, first of all, Alejandro and everyone on your team and all the subcontractors that you all hired and brought into our home were incredibly respectful. They were incredibly on it. Construction, when you're doing this stuff, of course, not everything goes as planned, but I never once felt that we were helpless in a situation.
Good.
And you hear those horror stories that a contractor ghosts you for like weeks. You hear these horror stories that the subcontractors didn't arrive. But everyone who came into our house was so clear with their communication. And every morning, Alejandro, we called it like our team huddle on text message. This is what we're doing today. This is the window they're going to be showing up. And again, because I and Jeff, my husband, had to coordinate with the building, get the elevator, stuff like that. We're just so like on edge. Like when are they coming? Because I need to know when they're coming because I need to get the elevator and get all of the equipment up. I don't even remember the particulars of that. I just remember the feeling of anxiety and being anxious. I wish I would have just enjoyed it more.
Good. I love that. And I love your honesty about it too, because, and these are real feelings that you went through. And this is why I wanted to do this interview with real clients, with real feelings, because a lot of people, they come in thinking one thing, and my job is to kind of educate so that when they do decide to do an investment like this, because this is a long-term investment. They understand what's going to happen. They hear from you, because one thing is me telling you, right? Another thing is like you're hearing from somebody that actually went through it. So, I'm so happy that you're here and you sharing your experience. So now, I want to go back to now another fear that most people have, running away with the money. That was one of it. I think
which happened to one of our neighbors. Oh. So again, we did our windows. We had to put impact windows. Okay. We didn't do it with you guys. I would have done it with you guys had I gone there with you guys. But one of our neighbors tried to put impact windows and they took the money. Whatever company they hired, they took that and they left.
It is so important in my opinion. Like, you're going to hire a company that's going to help you. Like, you need to do your research. You need to come to their office. Like, if something happens, where are you going to go? Who is the qualifier? Who's the license holder? Is he, because a lot of times, a lot of people, they want to do construction, but they don't have the license. They use somebody else's license that they pay out. And those are the red flags. Let's go back a little bit, because another big concern is typically there's three concerns that people have, right? It's typically the budget, the time, and the quality. So let's go with the budget. Initially, and we don't have to talk numbers. Initially, as long as you want to. Initially, you had a budget, right?
Yeah.
Like you came up with the budget. Did we give you the budget, or you already had a budget before you started?
That's interesting. So I think we had a frank conversation with Alejandro because we wanted our kitchen to look a certain way.
Correct.
And Alejandro was like, well, I can do this kitchen, very cost effective, but it's going to look like a cost effective kitchen. Did you post it on your Instagram where it's like, or maybe it was on the cutting edge where it's like a client wants to save money on the kitchen, or can we cut the cost? And then you show this beautiful kitchen and then you're like, okay, we'll cut the cost. And then you draw on a piece of paper and it's just like a square, something like that. I thought that was hysterical because that was emblematic of what we talked about with Alejandro. I don't know how we arrived at our budget. I will say, I think we were within our budget. In fact, I'm going to say something. I overestimated how much it was going to be. So in my eyes, we came in under.
That's amazing.
Yes. Thank you, Alejandro.
So were you telling us that the budget that we initially thought it was going to be, that we spoke about, you didn't go over budget?
We did not go over budget. We did not go over budget. I'm pretty sure we were under, but it was also because we had clear communication with Alejandro.
Correct.
There were some things that we were like, you know what, we can do this ourselves.
Yeah.
So, living in New York, we could paint our own apartment, for example. So I believe painting was in our budget. And I was like, no, we've been painting our apartment for a long time. We'll do it ourselves.
And it's a fun activity, right?
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun for my husband because I don't do it. I just sit there and drink wine and complain that wasn't the right color. So yes, it's fun for me. It's probably not fun for other people.
I love that.
And having frank conversations like that. And then I forgot what we said. I was like, oh, I can do that myself. And Alejandro was like, no, you can't. And I was like, oh, watch me. I'll watch this YouTube video. And he's here like, listen, I'm all for cutting corners where you can so we can meet your budget. However, there's certain things that it's not good for you as a client to do on your own. Get a professional person to come here because long term, yes, it may be a little bit more than you wanted, but you're going to get quality and you're not going to have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And just so your listeners at home know, you guys give a line by line item on everything.
Very
and
detailed.
that is so detailed. So demolition, for example, for our space, just throwing out our numbers, I can't remember. For our space could be anywhere between 2,000 to like 5,000, right? Because we're more of a condo. Where do we land in that? Always we landed below the initial high end of that estimate. Electrical, how much is that going to cost? And then at the end, you sort of get your total with the contractor fee already baked into it. So helpful.
Clear, yeah.
It's clear. So I never felt when it came to a budget that I was getting robbed or I was like, wait, that's kind of weird. Like of course we had questions as we were paying everything and just making sure that we were paying the right things. But I never thought for 1 second that my budget got out of control. How about that? My budget was always in control and Alejandro always communicated budget is a priority. Let's make sure, we meet where we're at in this range.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. So now.
Sorry, I have so much to say about,
I love it.
About a budget. Bro, if the Paul from like 3 years would be hearing me right now, I'd be like, yeah, you're so lame. So lame. Like, what happened to you, man? We used to party in West Village and now you're talking about
bottles
budget.
and all that.
Now I'm worried about like,
I bought a ring it, who cares?
I know. Like, now I'm like, oh, how much does that sink cost? Like, it's so sad.
That's when you become a homeowner.
I'm like looking at this sink and I remember this, we eventually bought our, what do you call that?
Faucet.
The faucet. We bought our own faucet and I remember to look at myself like, oh, that's an expensive faucet. Like, so late. It's so stupid. So stupid.
Well, I mean, it does add up, right? Quick.
Yeah, that is one thing because you want your home to be the best. And actually one of your subcontractors, WAD, Issa's team, they were sort of talking me through some of the choices that we had made. And I mentioned this faucet and I was like, oh, I think we paid too much for this faucet. And they were like, listen, at the end of the day, this is your home.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like a home unless you walk in and you feel comfortable with it. And seeing things like a rusty faucet or sheetrock that's out of date or needs to be changed, that really does affect your mental health, your outcome on the world. In your lifestyle. No, and I have to tell you, to be very candid, to give you this Oprah moment here, I found myself very depressed living in the apartment before the renovations were happening.
Yeah.
And I was very sad and I was carrying myself very differently. And even mentally, I had like a brain fog.
Wow.
And if it wasn't for Alejandro, if it wasn't for you, and your entire team here, I I don't know what I would have done. I just wouldn't be as happy as I am today. And I come into our apartment. We have a New York place. I come in and I'm like, I'm so glad I'm in the Miami loft.
And I'm home.
And I never would have said that. A year ago, I would have been like, we're selling this after capital gains runs out. We're out of here. And now I'm like, I want to keep this, man. I want to give it to my godson. You know, I want my nieces when they grow up, I want them to do spring break in Miami, and they're staying at their Dio's place. And it's only thanks to you guys. I found myself in a very dark place. And it was because of you. It was because certainly Alejandro every day, but also even the subcontractors who were coming in, who had a wonderful perspective.
I love that. I love that. And, you know, obviously we're blessed to have you as a client too. You know, you were one of the greatest clients that we have. Because, tell
me that again in 2 weeks when we're doing our bookshelves.
No.
We have a million questions.
No, listen, to us it's not about the questions because we're used to the questions. People, like, we're homeowners, so we understand it. Like, we understand as a homeowner, and we understand the fears, we understand the concerns, we understand the stories. So we come from that place, right? So we're patient, we answer questions because we want to make sure that we're aligned with our clients, because at the end of the day, it's a teamwork thing.
Yeah.
We cannot do this without your consent or without your decisions or without your approval. We can't.
Yeah.
We work as a team with the architect, with the designer, and with the homeowner. Those are the people that basically put everything together. Now, moving to that time frame.
Yeah.
What was that? Was the time within a time? Did we go over the time? How did that happen with the time? Because that's another concern that people have.
I understand that's a concern for a lot of people. We weren't precious about the time. For us, it was the priority of getting everything right.
I love that because everybody has different priorities. Like it seems to me your priority was a little budget was a little priority, but also getting things right.
Yeah, we were flexible, and we were, by the way, also, let's be realistic about time, right? Because we are living in Miami. It had a huge boom during the pandemic. So many of us New Yorkers came here and messed up the supply chain process for so many people. We understand that contractors are in demand. We understand supplies are limited. We ordered a table back in December, and it still hasn't been delivered yet. So it's sort of, I don't want to say that's like par for the course, like in our mindset, but like coming from New York, everything's hard to get.
Correct.
So we weren't precious, but for us was getting everything right and having that clear communication. I believe there is still like one thing we're following up on, and we haven't gotten, when we were talking to Alejandro about it this morning, we still haven't gotten an answer on it, not by any fault of you guys, but just because of how the process for something like this works. And our concern is more quality versus make it fast. You know what I mean?
Beautiful. So now let's jump into the quality. Because and I think we talked about this at the beginning, like everybody has an expectation in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's not that people are not educated or they're dumb. It's just that people don't know.
Yeah.
Like this construction business, it's a long process to get to the end game, right? We've put a lot of decisions throughout the way. Like I'm sure you guys had to make so many decisions throughout the process that maybe some of the fights were because of the decisions you have to make. We want this or we want that. No, but why? So, that's part of the process.
And adapting, because like what we said before, like especially if you're buying something that's older and you take down those walls, you're going to find those bodies buried. Like we found the telephone line. But also, and this is so absurd, when we knocked down the kitchen, we found that there was like a power line that we didn't really know what it was. It was like this like pipe that was a power line. And we're like, let's get rid of it. And if it wasn't for someone who was like, wait a minute, I think this is connected to the AC unit downstairs. I love that you know this, man, because I didn't know it. I was like, whoa. So now we have our kitchen, designed. Issa's team had designed this beautiful kitchen, and now we have to kind of like adapt for this pole right here. And the supply